Lady of the Longships, a short story by Paul McCann. This is the story of the first voyage of the Vikings in their longships as they ran through the waves to find new lands and conquer all those who stood before them. Apart from being fierce warriors, the Vikings were the very first master boat builders on the face of the earth. Once they had designed these longships, it was clear that their destiny awaited. On the Isle of Tanna, time had run out. Tanna had already begun to sink deeply into the sea. The people of Tanna moved over to Dansor, one of the outer islands in the cluster of islands. But Dansor too was following the path of Tanna and slipping slowly over the edge of the saltwater shelf into the sea. It had been decided by the king of Tanna and Dansor that the bravest and strongest of the Vikings would embark on a voyage to secure new lands to inhabit. 10 longships had been specially built for this journey. The first voyage across the blue-green waters toward Melissa was unknown. No one had passed beyond this saltwater shelf. King Cora promised a new land to all the people of Dansor. On this voyage, a number of huge humpback whales had already collected 3 of the ships. Some of the crew were saved by King Cora's crew, but the majority of them had drowned. Over the bright green waters, passing through the sea, suddenly waves rose like a monster to claim the remaining longships. Huge white mountainous waves, tossing the longships about for days until there was only one longship left. King Cora and his crew had survived. The other longships were all unaccounted for and vanished into thin air to the bottom of the sea. The ocean claimed their lives, and it calmed as if it was satisfied with the cost. Land appeared in view, and the longship soon had landed upon the shore. As soon as everyone set their foot on the land, a dark black cloud appeared in the sky, and in a matter of seconds, it covered the entire sky. The land was plunged into darkness. A wind swept up in the sand and twisted and turned, taking some of the Vikings into its vortex and throwing them high into the air like paper dolls. All around, trees began to bend. The remaining Vikings took shelter in the cave they found on the rocky cliff face. To their shock and surprise, in the cave they found a strange lady with the tail of a fish. She started to sing a melody that was so enchanting to everyone that heard went into a deep, deep sleep. As King Cora awoke, he found himself lying there on the golden sands, surrounded by the other Vikings. How pleased he was to see them once again, all those who had been lost at sea. In the wonder of what was happening, the lady with the fish's tail appeared and said, "I am the keeper of Tanna. Now, please let me have Dansor too." "Lady of Tanna," said King Cora, who smiled, "you can have Dansor if you permit my people safe passage to this new land and guard our longships on the voyage." The Lady of Tanna arose in the air like a bird hovering over the Vikings' heads. She ran her fingers through her long hair, and she replied, "It will please me if you carve an image of my face and place it in the front of your longships." "Your request shall be granted. Each longship will have your face." "Then return to Dansor and leave as soon as possible," said the Lady of Tanna. "What about our longships? Would you give them back to us?" King Cora and the crew began to walk in the direction of the sea, and one by one each of the long ships started to resurface. The voyage back to Dansor was easy and free from trouble. Immediately, all the craftsmen began to carve out the wooden image of the Lady of Tana, as directed by King Cora, and each one was finished. It was mounted upon the front of the longship. One by one, each vessel was loaded, and the task of getting everyone off Dansor was difficult. The sick, the weak, they were all placed together on longships with people who could care for them. The very young were placed in separate longships with their mothers and the main food supplies. The exile to Malaysia began. Never before had the like of this been seen, as hundreds of longships went out before the great blue-green water. "Goodbye, Dansor," shouted the king, and he continued, "Take her now, Lady of Tana. She is yours." At that moment, the island was swallowed up by the ocean. It dived like a whale into the crystal waters, and it disappeared in a second. Swimming in the ocean, beside King Cora's longship, was the strange lady, who looked up at King Cora and said, "Thank you, I am the Lady of the Sea, and your journey ahead is a safe one, and your new home awaits." The king burst out in fits of laughter. "I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but here I come." The king jumped from the longship and into the sea and threw his arms around the lady, who took him down beneath the ocean into her watery home. No one ever saw King Cora again. The longships made it safely across to Malaysia, where they all started a new life. That's the end of the story.